Hello, I am MJ James. I am an autistic non-binary author of science fiction and fantasy, and it is non-binary November. So here is the bingo card for non-binary November. If you are participating in it, you do not have to follow these prompts. That they are great suggestions to make sure that you are reading a little more diversely, but I am going to present some options for you of non-binary main characters and non-binary authors. I have a fair bit of them, and this is not all of them, so if you would like me to do another part of this video, let me know. I would be more than happy to do so, but let's get into it. Let's start with Annalee Newitz. I have Autonomous here, but they are a non-binary author, so any of their books count. They have a new book out called Autonomic Noodles, and that I have on hold at the library that I do plan on reading as soon as it comes in, so potentially in non-binary November, we will find out. Next, we have Junker 7 by Olive K. Kelly, and I believe they do have additional books out by now, but I have only read Junker 7. This is a science fiction book with a non-binary main character as well as a non-binary author. It is indie published and science fiction. So River Solomons is one of my favorite authors, and their book, An Unkindness of Ghosts, is one of my all-time favorite novels. If you have not read it, then I highly, highly recommend that you pick this up. It is about a generational ship, and it talks about inequality, racism. It does have a non-binary main character who I believe is also Ace, and talks about a lot of, there's just a lot of different representation in it, but it also talks about systemic racism. It's just such a fantastic book in such a fantastic world with amazing writing. So if this isn't on your TBR, it really, really needs to be. They are a non-binary author, so everything that they have written is also non-binary. I do own it all and have read it all. Their novella, The Deep, is based upon a song, and it is about mermaids that are descendants of all of the African individuals that went off the ships during the slave trade. It is very impactful. It is absolutely a must read, and also has non-binary representation within the story. Their book, Sorrowland, is a lot more speculative fiction. It may not be quite for everyone, but I still recommend that you pick it up, especially if you enjoy their other books. Of the ones that they wrote, this is probably my least favorite, but considering they're one of my favorite authors, that still means it is a fantastic, spectacular book, and I do recommend that you read it. Their newest release, Model Home, is honestly really close to my favorite book. I just don't think it can quite top An Unkindness of Ghosts because that's so good, but Model Home is also really, really good. This is kind of pegged as being a horror book, but I would classify it more as speculative fiction. As a person with a lot of trauma, I related to so much in this book and saw a lot of it coming because the conversations the main character has with their therapist, I swear I've had almost word for word with my therapist. So yeah, that tells you a lot about myself, but definitely one I recommend that you pick up as well. C.L. Polk is a non-binary author. I don't think their books have non-binary representation, at least the ones that I have read. They're all very queer though, very historically queer. This is even though I knew the end, and it is sapphic. It's really cool seeing how queerness kind of functioned in a historical setting, even though this is not like a nonfiction, it is a fiction book. It was still a very impactful read. And they also wrote this trilogy, which if you haven't heard of, I don't know where you've been, honestly. Again, there's not non-binary characters that I remember in it specifically, especially not the main characters, but it's very queer, and the author is non-binary, and it was a good historical fantasy series. Sarah Galen is also a non-binary author. Again, I don't think any of their books have non-binary representation in, or any of the ones that I've read, but I really do like their writing and do recommend that you read their books. I do have Magic for Liars as an ebook, so I potentially may pick that up in non-binary November, but The Echo's Wife is another horror-ish book that I enjoyed. Not too horror, because, you know, I was able to handle it, but it was a good read. Also, if you want another autistic non-binary author, Deanne Bryn is a pretty popular indie author. They write romance, a lot of male-male romance, and even though I'm not a big romance reader, as you all know, I do really enjoy their work, specifically for the representation and autistic representation in it. Anyways, they're a fantastic author, and they're another great one to pick up. The Bruising of Kilauea is another very popular indie book by a non-binary author with non-binary representation. I happen to have a very pretty indie, or very pretty copy of it, and so this is another book to potentially add to your selection. Disability Visibility is a compilation written by a whole bunch of different authors, some of which are non-binary, so this would work for disability representation. Not everyone in here is going to be non-binary, but it's a good volume to read overall, specifically for disability representation, with a lot of other intersectional identities. I do recommend you read it, but it also is a good one to add to your non-binary November TBR. Casey McQuestion is another non-binary author. I don't know any of their books that specifically have a non-binary representation in it, just that they are all very queer. One Last Stop is one of my favorite books, and I really enjoy it. Even though it technically is a romance, it's not very romantic, and it's a lot more sci-fi or speculative fiction in my opinion, which is probably why I like it. I do not like everything that they've written because some of it is a little bit too romantic for me, but it's another author to potentially pick up depending on what your tastes are. H.E. Edmond is actually someone on my TBR for their new series, but their duology, The Witch King and The Baykeeper, I have already read. It is a YA fantasy and kind of like a staple for starting in on non-binary representation, so I definitely do recommend it if you like YA books. However, one of my favorite YA books is The Many Half-Lives of Sam Sylvester. It has non-binary representation as well as autistic representation. It is such a fantastic story. It is about Sam, who has been adopted by an I believe an Arrow Ace father, and their relationship is just fantastic and so wholesome. And this is probably the only YA book that's like one of my favorite books. It was just so good, and I love the representation and fantastic autism representation in it as well. Iron Widow is another great book, 5-star YA book by a non-binary author with non-binary representation. I really need to reread this one and pick up the second book in the series. 5 stars. So if you haven't read it, now is a great time to pick it up. Another book that I don't own physically, but I read digitally, is By the Blood of Rowans by Zan von Rowan. It has non-binary representation by a non-binary author. It is YA as well, and it's about a group of families that live on this island, and it's the connection of the land to the families. Also, if you really like poetry, or honestly, even if you don't, I highly recommend you pick up Adria Gibson. They are a poet that recently passed away, and their poetry is very impactful. So if you do not know of them, I highly recommend that you check their work out. TJ Alexander is another non-binary author that writes a lot of romance. Again, I don't read a lot of romance. I've only read 2 of their books, including A Chef's Kiss and A Gentleman's Gentleman. A Chef's Kiss has non-binary representation in it. A Gentleman's Gentleman is trans men representation, but the author is non-binary, so if you really like romance, this is a trad published option for you. And another indie author that I have semi-recently read is Author Shin, and the book is A Galactic Star, and it is about a person who wants to be a popular singer, and so basically they sell their soul to the underworld, and the main character is non-binary and the author is as well. And these are my non-binary recommendations for non-binary November. Obviously, these are not all of them, so if you do want more videos, let me know in the comments down below. But I hope you were able to find something to read. And as always, keep reading, keep writing, and keep dreaming. Until next time.